Alright everyone, welcome. In this video, excuse me, I'm going to be talking about the Shakespearean sonnet, also known as the English sonnet. So the two main things I'm going to talk about today is the rhyme of a Shakespearean sonnet, which as you see is much easier than the Petrarchan rhyme scheme, but also the meter of the sonnet. Meter has always been something that I've personally have struggled with. That's not easy for me. You kind of have to have a good ear for meter. So in addition to my explanation, I'm going to also post a couple of other explanations about meter so that you guys might, so you can supplement whatever I say. So as far as Shakespeare's sonnets go, I'm going to give you guys another video soon on Shakespeare's England, especially with his drama. Shakespeare was both a poet as well as a dramatist. He wrote I forget how many, it was about 130, 140 sonnets, something like that during his lifetime. All of his sonnets are very famous. Some of the ones we read for today, I'm going to be covering Sonnet 18 and 130 mostly, because those are two good comparison and contrast sonnets. All of the sonnets are very studied and talked about in literature courses. So the main thing to mention, Shakespeare's sonnets have similar conventions as Petrarch's. They have an octave. So again, they're 14 lines. Let's see. Make sure I'm giving you. If there are again 14 lines, you again have your first 8 lines that are an octave. You have the last 6 lines that are the sestet that solves the problem of whatever is being talked about in the first 8 lines. So again, you have this in common with Petrarch's sonnets. However, our rhyme scheme in Shakespeare is much easier. So we have A, B. So again, it depends on how the last word and the sound of the last word in the line. So we have, this time it's very simple. We have A, B sound. Our second stanza, we have new sounds. We have a C sound, D sound, C sound, D sound. Then the third stanza, starting the sestet, we have an E sound, F sound, E sound, F sound. And then the last 2 lines are a couplet. So these are exact rhymes after each other, and that's a G sound. So just take a look at Sonnet 18. We'll talk more about what these sonnets are discussing in a second. But we have day, May, temperate, date, temperate and date. You would got to stretch that one a little bit. So temperate, date. So that's our B sound. Shines, declines. That's our C sound. Dimmed, untrimmed. That's our D sound. Fade, shade, our E sound. Oest, growest, our F sound. And then our final rhyming couplets are our G sounds, C, the. So the rhyme scheme in Shakespeare is much easier than it is in the Petrarchan way. At least for us English speakers, it might be different for Italian speakers. Shakespeare innovated this in this way to make it easier for English writers to write one. So that's the main convention as far as rhyme goes. The main thing that I want to talk about in this video is beat. Okay, so if you guys are, one of the good thing about music today, especially the hip hop genre. Hip hop genre is all about beat, right? Beat is something that I've always I have an ear for it, but not a great ear for it. So basically, within poetry, there's different beats, and these beats are called feet. Okay, so an iamb, which is what Shakespeare's lines are mostly built on, that has an unstressed beat followed by a stressed beat. So it's something like da dum, da dum, da dum. Right, the dum is much more. You can hear it much more than the da dum than the da. Right, da dum, da dum. A trochee is different. Right, a trochee, you have a stressed sound followed by an unstressed sound. So the great William Blake poem starts with "Tiger, tiger, burning bright." We have the tig, and then the right? Tiger. You have that stressed sound, unstressed sound. So that's the beat of a trochee. You have an anapest. So that is unstressed, unstressed, stressed. So something like "to the lighthouse," right? To the light, right? That's an anapestic foot. And a dactyl, is a stressed sound followed by two unstressed sounds. So basically, what iambic pentameter means, it means most of the lines in a line of verse have these iamb sounds. And the pentameter means that there's 5 feet in the line. So this is a foot. So there's 5 of these different feet within the line. And usually it comes out as 10 syllables. Sometimes you might have more. But most of the time it's 10 syllables. You usually don't want to go over 10. Okay. So the majority of the feet in the line for it to qualify as iambic pentameter has to have the dum, sing-song sort of beat to it. And so basically to know what's stressed and what isn't, usually one syllable nouns like foot, that would be a stressed syllable in a line. You have a word like a preposition, so something like in or for, across. Those words usually aren't stressed. Articles, the, and, those usually aren't stressed. The hard part about it is the multisyllable nouns. So for the multisyllable nouns, you just kind of have to say them, hear the syllables, and then ask yourself which syllable are you putting more weight on. So a word like tempest, right? The tempest. The way that I just said that, I put more emphasis on the tim than I did the pust. All right, so that's a case where we have a stressed syllable, unstressed syllable. That's a trochaic foot. The word tempest is a trochee, right? Because you have a stressed, unstressed. Usually, I'll just show you guys this by going to the dictionary. Usually, if you have a word that has more than one syllable, you have a bad ear like myself, you can usually tell which syllable is stressed by looking at the dictionary. So the word tempest, they put it in two syllables. Tim is bolded, pust. The bolded syllable is the stressed syllable. Okay. So just to look at Sonnet 18, I'm going to read this in a very exaggerated way that sounds like William Shatner. Okay, so you've watched Star Trek, I'm going to sound just like him, so forgive me ahead of time. So I'm not gonna read this elegantly. I'm purposefully exaggerating the syllables. Okay. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. So you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can see the general beat of the lines. The first line starts with, I think it starts with a stress syllable. So shall I compare, there's 2 feet already, then thee to a summer's day. So even though that line's not perfectly iambic, it's mostly iambic. We have 2 trochees in the line, these 2 feet, but the other feet compare a summer's day. There's 3 iambs in the line and 2 trochees, so it's still an iambic line. Thou art, that's a more lovely and more temperate. That line's almost perfectly iambic. Rough winds do shake, so there's 2 feet. The dar, 3 feet. Ling buds, 4 feet. Of May, 5 feet. So you guys can see how these lines in this are almost have this sort of great mathematical precision about them. Right? You want to make sure you hit that beat. The thumb, the thumb, the thumb. So again, the lines don't have to be perfect. Probably the most perfect lines in this sonnet are the end lines. So long lives this, and this gives life to thee. That's a perfectly iambic pentameter line. 5 iambs in a line. They don't have to all be like that. So long as most of the lines are iambic, you're good. Then, of course, meeting the rhyme scheme as well. So let's talk about these 2 great sonnets, 18 and 130. Again, these are my favorites of the lot. So I'll just read 18 for you in a not exaggerated way. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines. By chance or nature's changing course untrends, but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines the time thou growest. So long as men can breathe and eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So this kind of takes the ideal beauty, sort of metaphor we've gotten from Petrarch, right? Or maybe a Beatrice type figure. Right? So in this poem we got this perfect woman, right? She's like a summer's day in her beauty. However, beauty is not eternal, right? Beauty fades with time. So, however, starting with her Sonnet, however, Shakespeare argues that this woman will always be forever beautiful. Her eternal summer shall not fade, because she's described as being so beautiful in his poem. Right? She'll always be beautiful. Death can't take away her beauty, because her beauty is forever represented within his lines of poetry. right? Pretty cool, right? So we're still reading this poem, well past 400 plus years later. We're still reading this poem. Pretty neat little message to it, right? But again, we see the problem started. He's comparing his love to the summer's day, but beauty isn't forever. But then the sestet solves the problem, right? So Shakespeare's great Sonnet 18. Usually when students do poem imitations, Shakespeare's a little easier, right? So long as you get the beat, get the rhymes right, the rhymes are a little easier to keep up with, you're good. But let's compare that to Sonnet 130. So my mistress's eyes. So here's this one's completely different. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. So, the ladies, and of course, I don't know if you would find this to be flattering or an insult, right? But he says, compared to the woman in Sonnet 18, who's so beautiful and so radiant, here we have a plain Jane, right? There's nothing beautiful physically about her, right? Her breasts are done, her hair's like black wires, and there's no roses. There's no roses in her cheeks, right? No blemishes. Her breath stinks, right? Her voice is grating. She probably sounds like a friend from the nanny, right? But despite that, in the last couple of lines, and yet by heaven, I think my love is as rare as any she belied with false compare, right? Despite her lack of physical beauty, she's beautiful inside, right? He never has to worry about anything as far as that goes. He would rather have her than the woman in Sonnet 18 because she's more true. Maybe the woman in Sonnet 18 is vain, right? Compared to the one in 130 who's a great, great woman. So those poems are, this figure often shows up in a lot of his later sonnets, and these are called the dark lady sonnets. But 18 and 130 are always such a great point of comparison, right? Two different descriptions of two different women, right? Depends on it depends which one you find more interesting. That's Shakespeare's sonnets in a nutshell. Right? Remember the rhyme. Remember the iambic pentameter. If you can match that, then you can write your own sonnets. So let me know what questions you guys have. I will for sure take them before you have to write your own poems. Until next time, take care.